So the role and level assigned by the metadata advisor need not always be correct. So we want to go and examine each variable individually and carefully and make sure that the roles and levels assigned by the metadata advisor are appropriate. So for that, you need to be able to look at the data, or at least a summary of the data. And what we can do is, well, if the data set has variable labels, and if you check this box, the variable label will appear. So it will tell you what the field contains. So for example, AE means adverse event or not. And then DBP is diastolic blood pressure and so on. So now you highlight the entire set of variables. So click on the first one and then do shift click. So now all the variables are selected. So now you go and click explore. Now the explore gives you a summary of all the variables that you have selected. You have bar charts for all the variables, and then we have a summary table. So how many rows of data, how many columns. Then you have a sample of observations, just a few of them, so you can maximize it and look at it. And then you have sample statistics like mean, median, mode, maximum, and things like that. So we can examine these summary values and also examine the bar charts to figure out whether the role and level that metadata advisor has set up is okay or not, or do we need to change them. So let's go one by one. So let's select adverse event. Now adverse event, okay, I'm going to minimize or change the size so we can take a look at the charts and make changes here. The first one is AE, it's adverse event or not. So apparently this is the based on the blood pressure and other variable values for the patient, we want to predict whether an adverse event is going to occur or not. So adverse event is what we want to predict, so that's our target. So first thing to do is to change the role to target from input. Then it is right now coded as nominal, so that's because we have some problem values. So there is 0 meaning not an adverse event, 1 meaning adverse event, and here is 1 with no value. Okay, adverse event is blank, and then there is 1 with a apparently an adverse event, which should really be coded as 1. So if we can recode A to 1 and then get rid of the blank row, then we can change this from nominal to binary. Okay, so binary is one of the options, but we cannot change it to binary now because there are 4 different values. So we'll get to that a little later. The next item is diastolic blood pressure, and it is coded as nominal by the metadata advisor. Okay, and here is the diastolic blood pressure, and obviously diastolic blood pressure is a numerical value. It's not a nominal variable, and metadata advisor has coded the variable as nominal because of the threshold that we had set. So 20 or less unique values means that you're going to use that as a nominal variable. So this is a problem, and usually when you have large data sets, variables which are truly interval variables will have lots of unique values. So 20 is not that unreasonable a threshold, but this particular data set is a small one. So the number of unique values is for DBP is less than the threshold. So we ended up having the metadata advisor coding it as nominal. So let's change that to interval. Now dx is diagnostic code. So diagnostic code apparently is what type of diagnosis that the patient has. So there are some blank values, and there is 1 through 7, and there is 1 which is x. So it's kind of a crazy situation. But obviously, even though there are numerical values, this is a nominal variable because it is just a category. What type of diagnosis does the patient have? All right, so we're going to leave that as nominal. Heart rate should be obviously a numerical variable or interval variable. So once again, the same problem like the blood pressure. Because this data set is a small data set, the number of unique values is less than the threshold, and the metadata advisor is coding this as nominal, so we'll change it to interval. Now patient number, okay, patient number is just a patient number. We don't want that in the analysis, and so SAS is rejected, which is good, so we'll keep it like that. Now SBP, systolic blood pressure, is interval. Okay, so that's that one, so that's good. Then visit date, that is time ID. So when the visit took place, what is the date? So time ID is interval. Time ID you will not use it in analysis. You'll use it in time series plotting. So we can leave it like that. So in our numerical statistical analysis, time ID will not be used. So this is okay. Now gender. Okay, gender is obviously nominal, but if you look at gender, you have lots of different values. So you have blank and then a 2, an uppercase F and lowercase f, uppercase M and an X. So this needs a little bit of cleaning. Once it is cleaned up, we can change this to binary, but it doesn't really matter for a predictor variable. Nominal and binary is not going to make much of a difference. Now, we don't have any ordinal variable in this particular case. So if you had an ordinal variable, you'll select ordinal. Except for there are specific data mining models that use ordinal variables differently than a nominal variable. For example, in a decision tree, nominal variable and ordinal variables are handled differently, and that's why it is important to correctly code nominal and ordinal variable. But in most other methodologies, ordinal and nominal doesn't make any difference. They are treated the same way. But you have to be very careful because there are methods that use nominal and ordinal differently. When you have an ordinal variable, you must code the level as ordinal and not nominal. So once that is done, then you can click next. And decision processing, we will look at decision processing a little later. So you click next, next, and finish. Now we have the data source set up. So in this video, we looked at how to set threshold or default parameters for advanced metadata advisor, and then how to examine the variables and change, if necessary, change the level and the role automatically assigned by the metadata advisor.